So business climate.
Yeah, you know, when I worked in communities around Minnesota, quite often I worked for the Department of Trade and Economic Development, and our number one goal was to support communities in their local business retention. But if there was ever a business who wanted to locate also into the state, the things that they look at in a community when they want to even grow or locate is how are the finances in that community? How is the city managing its books? When they see things like property taxes going up and utility rates going up, I mean, that just adds to the cost of them doing business. So they're going to shy away from growing or locating in that community. And I look at Duluth as having great potential as a place to do business. I think we need to work better at, keeping taxes low so they can grow and keeping the utility rates reasonable, getting our books in order so they can grow.
Okay, so part of what I'm hearing from you, Jack, is that it's about onerous regulation. And what I'm hearing from you is it's keeping costs somewhat in line so that businesses know what to expect and how they can move forward in that area.
Right.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind mentioning another
No,
point.
please.
I think often when we talk about business climate in Duluth, we talk about a community where we see a lot of political battles come up when new ideas are coming to town. We see, half the city support a project and half the city fight against a project. And to me, if I could do one thing in this city, it would be to build policy that is rooted in citizen involvement. And by citizens, I don't just mean people I do mean the citizens of Duluth, but I also mean organizations such as the Chamber and local businesses to create a sort of forward-thinking plan. Something that goes beyond just reacting to what happens and what comes to us, so that when we do have new ideas, when there are development projects that we're looking at, we're not deciding whether or not they go forward based on whoever wins the political battle of the day. We're asking ourselves, does it fit into our long-term vision for the city, and a vision that's been put together by the people of the city and by those organizations that drive our city. And so I think that's the type of development that we need to develop here. It's the kind of policy that we need to develop, and that's what I'd like to do.
Okay, I want to come back to you, but you were mentioning something.
Well, I think one of the issues we have is talk to small businesses in this town. They don't feel they're being fully represented. The profit margins, when you add extra utility rates and property tax increases to pay for other people's health care, when the price of business goes up, the price of costs go up. So as you got families that are trying to survive at their home front, they're getting backdoor tax from every angle wherever they go in this town. Before we can even talk about business climate in the future, we have to make sure that all of our businesses are happy in the way things are going. Right now, you can talk to the rich that are getting richer, the old money in this town. They don't have a problem with the way things are going, but talk to the mom and pops out there and find out what they think. No one's happy, so let's not kid ourselves. When we can take care of the small businesses and the moms and pops out there who are struggling on a day-to-day basis, trying to carve out their niche, then we can move forward. I got more ideas on that, but I don't want to take up the whole tape here.
Okay, Tony, do you want to jump in before
I'd love to jump in, and from my point of view, there's a couple things. The common theme that we need to talk to our business owners, yes, we need to create a business-friendly environment. I don't believe it's city government's job to employ people. It's city government's job to assist others to employ people. That's how we're doing our job best. First thing I would do is get the city council off of DETA. We cannot be commissioners and we cannot be councilors. Becky and John are far more qualified than anyone at this table to talk to economic development. They should be there. Not me, not John. No offense. And I really believe that when you start talking about economic development, we have to talk about, going back to the community discussion. That community discussion has to be, what is our strength? What makes us different than Portland, Oregon? What makes us different from Las Vegas? What makes us different from these? What can we do to attract 25 to 34-year-olds here? And the first thing we need to do is stop setting up ordinances and stop having fights about students bad, landlords bad, renters bad. And we need to find a way to get along, make them part of our community, make them a sense of belonging. They're a wonderful gift. And for economic development, it would be a wonderful gift. So we need to appreciate them and communicate with them.
Let me just key off of some of the things you're talking about, and that Tony talked about earlier. You talked about a common vision, so if I can get your two themes going here. And yet our town has a long history of union business battles, whether it's an election or whether it's, probably the most recent one was maybe the car check neutrality agreement. As a business organization, we didn't support that. I think Councilor Little, you remember us standing up and talking about that. That maybe sends a message that that's not a business-friendly thing. But Tony, you talk about getting these groups together and forming a common vision. How do you do that in a town like this to create a better business climate?
Well, I mean, number one, I don't think we can expect every organization to agree on every issue, and that's just not going to happen, and that's okay. We need multiple ideas in the city. But I think, and I've said this before, my personal approach, and I can't speak for other organizations all the time, but I can tell you my personal approach and the approach I would like to work with other organizations. If there is only 25% of the things we agree on, let's find a way to work together in getting those 25% done. And then I think it means not taking the rest personally. It means not fighting the rest of our battles in the media or publicly. And it means treating each other with respect. And I can only, I can provide that sort of leadership on my own terms. I can ask other organizations to do that and try and lead by example. But that's the approach I would take when I'm talking about that issue.
Okay.
And I would add to that I think the first step should be doing away with endorsements in municipal elections, because very few of us have no endorsements or are seeking no endorsements. But when you've got the DFL party, or if you've got the firefighters, or if you've got ASME or the Central Labor Body,
Or the Republicans.
who frankly aren't going to be doing as much as some of these organizations, that's just the way it is, but they're going to be out there working for their candidate, they're going to be out there campaigning, lid dropping, whatever, and when that happens, their candidate gets elected, it's very difficult for that person on the council or on DETA to vote against that organization when they're primarily responsible for getting them elected. And to me, I just think it's created this hostile environment that we can't get away from, and now it's become, which PAC has the most money and who's going to spend the most money and who's going to get the most endorsements. And frankly, I think that's wrong. And I think it's creating a bad environment, even within the police department and the fire department. You've got two different unions, and they each want their own candidate, and that's just one specific example. But it's just making things difficult, and it's very hard to get away from that. But I think that is the first step.
But isn't that the nature of American politics, that we seek endorsements and go after that, groups help you? And John, you obviously have an opinion.
I have an opinion. When it comes to endorsements, the day you accept an endorsement is the day you become a whore for that corporation. And I hate to be so blunt, but that's the way it is. When it comes to city politics, you have to do what's best for the people. I spoke on card check neutrality. I think I could best represent the city. But I tell you what, respect has to be earned, never given. They talk about civility in the council chambers, but I tell you what, the way this council is made up, they don't have a problem sticking you in the back with a hot knife when they tell you to be civil. Card check neutrality is horrible. To me, that is what is anti-business. I thought it was a lazy way. If they were so concerned about card check, and let me just finish up on this, Todd Erickson and those guys from Unite 99, they should have found a way to get the people down at Grandma's who aren't represented to be a part of the process. But instead, it's like any business in the future that takes city money. What about all the Palucci money that's taken money for years in this town? They should have been included. It comes down to endorsements do not do the city any good. You take endorsements, I just tell you what, by the time you get to that council seat, you become irrelevant. You cannot work for the people. You can only work for that 25%. And that 25%, it's all about them, and the 75%, they'll say, screw you, go to hell.
Okay, so we know how you feel.
Yeah.